And we're live. What's up, everybody? It's the Iceberg, back to the NASCAR Weekly Podcast. We got a really big show tonight, so what do you think, Darren? Let's not leave him waiting too long on this one. How about it?
Let's go!
Green flag, green flag. I'll roll.
He's flipping me up! Ah! Hey, yeah, boys! How about that? They cut! Watch it in the wall! He drew it off the track! Baby, that's how you do it! Get that second flag, son! Yeah, baby, yeah! Hell yeah!
All right, yeah, we got a pretty big show tonight. We got a lot to talk about with Dover. Got a lot to talk about with the new Gen 7 Next Gen car, and we have a special guest coming on in about, I'd say 4 or 5 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah, 4 or 5 minutes. In Vince Welch. He was nice enough to give us some time tonight, so he'll be on pretty soon. Just letting you guys know what the plan is. Darian and I, we're gonna ask 3 questions. Let's go back and forth. And if we'll look in the comment section. If you leave a super chat, you get precedence over everybody. Got that ready. So we'll be keeping an eye out. Darian has his up. I got mine up right here. And we'll probably ask 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of your guys' questions. Darian, you can get the fan questions for that one. But he'll be on in just a bit.
Yeah, I got the chat up.
And then after Vince is on, Danny B should be coming around the half-hour mark or so. So you won't just have to deal with us. We will have Danny here to keep us in check. But man,
Yeah,
it
seems like it's just been us two though.
Yeah.
It's been. Yeah.
And then just due to some scheduling conflicts, Ty Gibbs couldn't make it tonight. It happens, guys. Just happens.
Yeah.
So we'll work on it.
We'll reschedule again though. We just roll with the punches.
Roll with it.
We just roll with the punches.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, hey, I'm getting some people saying, have Vince say Noah Gregson. I don't know about we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, let's see. Basically, just leave whatever questions in here. Darren to keep an eye out for them, and we'll get into it. But man, I have been looking forward to this podcast for a few weeks now since we got it scheduled out. I've been looking forward to it now with the Dover race, because even though it wasn't the greatest race, we still got plenty to talk about. And then, man, I've been looking forward to it now because of this Gen 7. Like, holy crap. We might not have gotten a lot of news stories this week, but we got some big ones.
We got some big ones. Yeah, some big ones, and it'll definitely cover the 2 hours we need to cover. So I'm looking in the chat. I'm looking at y'all's questions. Please make the questions appropriate. Come on, y'all. We need to make them appropriate, y'all. Breaking news. What's the breaking news? But and then I also see Joseph in here. Not Joseph Lombard. It's another Joseph. He says Kyle Larson's winning the championship. Yeah, we'll get into that because
I would laugh so much if that happened, just from the fact that everyone's been like,
I
Larson's
said Kurt
having
Busch
a
was the number
horrible
one driver.
year.
I said Kurt Busch was
was
the number one driver. He was the number one driver until like 2 weeks, like until the playoffs started. Just like
until
that.
It started to matter.
Like that. Yeah, and also remember back in April, I had tweeted bad seasons. Kyle Larson 2019 in April after his Talladega flip. Now who's the fool now?
And really quick, I see a lot of people in the chat. They're like, "Well, what is this? Is it a BS stream?" No. Vince Welch will be on very soon.
Less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, around 2 minutes or so. And then Danny B will be on probably around the half-hour mark or so. So, yes, this is an actual podcast. We're just sort of, just letting everybody file in. That way, see, we got 150 watching right now. So, yeah, thank you guys all for coming in. Basically we want to get everybody in so that you guys don't miss out. I know we've had times before where we've started interviews right at the start, and everyone misses the first 10 of the 15 minutes, and it's like they feel cheated,
and then they're like, what happened? Where is it at? Like, where is he at? Like, hey, when is what's his name coming on? Like, we already had him at the very beginning of the show, so we had to change it up this time. So we're gonna start doing this from now on. We'll start doing this to get everybody in here. But yeah.
And then I see you asking what do we think about the new car. We'll get into that in a little bit. We don't want to spoil too much, but we have
Wrestling's Racing Network. What's up, man? Yeah, I love the Spiders guy, dude, for the chorus season. I can't.
I love them too. I love the both the primary and the backup ones. Really good, man. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, we can basically just do a Q&A until he comes in here. Let's see.
Let's do a real quick Q&A, and then once he comes in, we'll get right down to business.
Oh, and by the way, I'm about to hit 10K.
Yes, he's only 39 away, y'all. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to him.
38.
We got to 38 now. Oh, there we are. Let's see. Oh, somebody's in here.
I'm on.
Hey.
Am I supposed to see you because I'm only hearing you?
It's fine that it's fine that you hear us. Don't worry. You don't have to see us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going, sir? It's great to have you on.
It's good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. It's an honor to get to talk to you. I guess we can just sort of go right into it. So what we'll do, we'll just Darian and I will both ask you 3 questions each. We'll just bounce back and forth, and then we'll just look in the chat and see the see what the chat thinks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whatever you guys want to do. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Sir. So to start out, I guess I want to ask kind of how has the transition since leaving ESPN and going to Fox Sports been for you so far?
It's been great for me. It's been, what's it been now? 4 years, I guess. So it's been seamless. You know, it's in regards to covering Cup or Xfinity, which is what I did at ESPN. You know, the job is the same. It's just a different logo on your shirt or different mic flag, and some, you know, procedural things are different. But, you know, as far as covering the garage and covering the sport, you know, all is the same. So that transition from that perspective has been smooth. You know, the great advantage for me since coming over to Fox is not only do I get to do Cup and some Xfinity, but also obviously I'm getting the opportunity in the booth to do the Truck Series, and then I do college basketball for Fox in the winter. So professionally, it's been great. The people are phenomenal. I really can't say enough how much, and I don't say that just because, you know, we're on the podcast. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. The people at Fox have been a joy to work for, and that ranges from the upper management all the way down to those I work with on a regular basis at the racetrack. So the move has been great for me, but you know, had a lot of great experiences at ESPN, and you know, was able through my time at ESPN and ABC Sports to, you know, be on the telecast of 15 Indianapolis 500s and you know, cover Cup NASCAR championship races, and it was a great run. But I'm very happy to be where I am now. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue into my first question. You also covered some IndyCar back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So what was that like?
Well, you know, I live in Indianapolis, so IndyCar is, you know, is part of the fabric of our community here, and not just for those of us that are in the sports world, but in particular for those of us that are in the sports world. You know, it's something that you know, it's almost like family. You know, I mean, that's just what you do. And you know, I've been going to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway since you know, I've been barely old enough to walk. So that place is special to me, and having an opportunity to cover IndyCar back in the day, if you will, was always something that I valued, and I have great respect for all racers, regardless of what discipline it is, because every time they put that helmet on and strap in that car, they put their life on the line. And unfortunately, we've been reminded of that too often in regards to people that I've been close with and know, and so that's always challenging. But you know, to have an opportunity to cover IndyCar was a great opportunity for me, and then of course to be a part of the ABC and ESPN broadcast teams that broadcast the Indianapolis 500 was you know, was special. You know, those we do it, you know, for the big events. You know, regardless of what sport it is, in our business, the big events are what you really seek and desire, and doesn't get a whole lot bigger than the Indianapolis 500. So, that was a great treat for me, and I enjoyed it. I get that question a lot. Do you miss doing the Indy 500? And I say that I'm blessed to be able to be in Charlotte and do the 600. I did 15 Indy 500, so I don't want to be greedy and saying that that I want more. So I'm thrilled that I got that opportunity, but I'm happy with the way my career path has gone, and I'm honored to be in Charlotte for the 600 every year in Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend.
So you were talking a little earlier how you get to cover other sports, and I wanted to ask, how does the overall experience covering NASCAR compare to both other sports and other racing leagues? Is there a certain skill set that people need in NASCAR compared to those other ones?
Well, I think NASCAR is the most difficult sport I've ever been a part of in regards to being a broadcaster. Just because of the sheer number of participants, the teams, the crew members, the number of teams that you're covering on a weekly basis. You've got 30 to 40 teams on a NASCAR weekend. And that's if you're just doing, the Cup Series. If you're working the Xfinity race and maybe a truck race too, then, those numbers go up. Whereas when you're doing a football game or a basketball game, baseball game, you've got two teams to deal with. And so that creates quite a bit of a challenge, makes it more difficult, doesn't make it worse, just makes it a different kind of challenge. And the elements are, it's challenging physically at times because of you're out there on a Cup race on pit road with a broadcast pack around your waist and that, weighs, I don't know what that weighs, 20 pounds or so. And you're lugging that around for 5 hours, sometimes in the heat and on the pavement, and your back can start barking at you about halfway through. So, physically it's a lot more challenging than the other sports. I do basketball in the winter, and, we come on the air and a minute later we tip off, and it's typically in a 2-hour time frame window, and then you're done. The game ends, you sign off, and you throw it back to the studio, and it's over. Not to mention you're sitting down courtside calling the game in a controlled environment. So, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of challenges that come with covering NASCAR, but to be honest with you, I like the challenge. I like to be challenged. I don't want it to. I don't think anybody got in this business because it's easy, and that includes those that are in the garages working on the cars and trying to get a win every week. You've got to embrace the challenge. And I certainly do and enjoy it and love being at the racetrack every week.
So I'm currently a junior in college, studying journalism, and some commentators I've always looked up to are yourself, Rick Allen, Alan Bestwick, the late Benny Parsons, Bob Jenkins. Is there any commentators you looked up to growing up?
Well, certainly those that you mentioned are outstanding announcers that helped shape, excluding myself from that group, that helped shape the sport. And I think that you're spot on with all of those and your admiration of those and those gentlemen that you mentioned. And I did not get a chance to work with Benny, and I've not worked with Rick, but obviously know Rick Allen, but have worked with Alan Bestwick and have worked with Bob Jenkins, and they are terrific people as well as terrific broadcasters. I came from an era where Kurt Gowdy or Dick Enberg, Vin Scully, if I listened to baseball, those were guys. Bob Costas was young, but was certainly one of in my era. Brent Musburger was, I think in his prime when I was younger. So I think that namely the Inbergs, Dick Inbergs, the Vince Scully, the Kurt Gowdy, those were guys. Chris Schenkel. Maybe you're young enough, you maybe haven't even heard of them, but I can tell you they were some of the greatest. They were Hall of Famers without a doubt, each of them. I think Al Michaels is phenomenal. I like the guys that do more than one sport or that can flow between sports. They may be known more. Al Michaels is known, of course, for being an NFL guy, but Al Michaels broadcasts. He was the radio play-by-play man in Major League Baseball. He's done the NBA, of course, the Olympics, and maybe the most impressive moment in my respect for Al Michaels was when he was broadcasting the World Series and they had the earthquake in San Francisco, and he immediately switched. He immediately switched to being a news reporter because he lived in that area. So when they put the helicopter up in the sky and they were going over the community and talking about the damage, Al Michaels, became a spot news reporter, and because he knew that area and he could identify the bridges and the streets and the buildings. And believe me, even though he made it seem easy, that was a phenomenal display of journalism, and just was excellent. And as much as he'll be known for the call of the Olympic, do you believe in miracles? When I think of Al Michaels, the first thing I think of was his performance that night of the earthquake.
One question I really would like to hear your take on is, for you both personally and professionally, how has it been? How's your experience been watching your son work his way up the ranks and be a reporter like you?
It's been interesting. It is, most people would probably think that I encouraged him to go that direction in his career, and really it's just the opposite. Encouraged him to do something else professionally, but he has an incredible passion for racing. He drives and races himself, and so it was natural for him when he had to get out of the car because he didn't have the sponsorship to continue running the way he wanted. He began doing PA at the racetrack, and that allowed him, he couldn't race, but at least it got him to the track. And it just, it snowballed from there. The first time I ever heard him calling a race over the PA was at Eldora, and I, tuned into their, the pay-per-view there, that system that Eldora uses, and I could hardly believe it was him because he was so smooth and he had just started out. And so it's been, there's been fatherly pride in it, but I would say that I would have pride in, I'm proud of all my kids, not just the ones that, have chosen to do what I do. So, as a dad, you just want your kids to find a passion and to be able to have that to be a significant part of their life, whether it's as their job or just continuing to be their hobby or whatever the case may be. So while I've had great joy in seeing him at the racetrack. We've even worked the pit lane in the same sections, he on radio, me on TV. That's been a bit unusual too. It still catches me off guard sometimes to see him doing his thing while I'm doing mine. And so it's been cool, but I got to say I would be proud of him regardless of what direction he went in his career if he was being successful and enjoying what he was doing. It just so happens to be it's the same thing that I do, but that doesn't make me any more proud of him for that. But it does allow me to see him a little bit more often because he lives in Charlotte and I live in Indianapolis, so we see each other at the racetrack, which is nice. Get to see each other more often, and we talk we talk a lot about, um, about what's going on in that particular weekend, especially if we happen to be working, the same race. We talk about storylines and we talk about information, and I get info from him just as he gleans information from me. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but I think the coolest part is just being a dad and seeing your kid be able to do what he really enjoys and has a passion for.
So I'm really interested. This is my final question before we get into fan questions. So, sometimes, every now and then, commentators, have slip ups. They'll mess up, they'll mispronounce some words and that sort of thing. I've had my fair share of that on the podcast here. I just wanted to ask, like, do you know of any of like some of the memes that have possibly been made about you? Number one, and second part to that, how do you deal with criticism?
No, I'm not familiar with those. You know, it's number one. If you're going to be in this business, you got to have a thick skin.
Absolutely.
All right, and nobody is perfect, and we all make mistakes. Everyone that I'm sure there are people out there. I don't really spend a lot of time on social media. So some of it I see, some of it I don't, obviously. But nobody likes to have people say mean things about them. I mean, no one, regardless of what profession you're in. So to say that I've never read something that I was, that hurt my feelings, or sure I have. I think you'd be, you wouldn't be human if you said that, it hadn't. But I would venture to guess that 99.999% of the people that are criticizing me or praising me on social media have never broadcast a race in their life. And maybe have never broadcast anything in their life. And so they have no idea of the challenges that come with it. I see things online all the time, and not just about the broadcast side, but just about the sport in general, that people will tweet out and like they know for a fact that what they have tweeted is true, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
And so if Mike Joy pulled me aside and was critical, had some critical commentary for me, or if Bestwick called me up and had some critical words for me, Bob Jenkins, those guys that have done it, then I would certainly take that to heart, absolutely. But when somebody sitting at home who's never done it and has no idea what the producer might be telling me in my ear, what the director might be doing, we all make mistakes. We all mispronounce things. We all misspeak. There have been times I've watched a race back and I've seen that I've said something I didn't even realize I'd said. That happens. If you speak nonstop for 2 or 3 hours, that's gonna happen. Try it sometime. But no, I don't get riled by somebody's negativity on Twitter, unless it would happen to be from someone that I really have a lot of respect for in the business, and so that doesn't bother me. You got to have thicker skin than that, and I go there and I do the best I can do, and I leave there at the end of the night, and sometimes I'm pleased with the job I did, and other times I'm not. But I think that probably if we all really evaluated ourselves honestly, we could say that about each and every day of our lives in some way, shape, or form. So social media, it provides it provides everybody an outlet. It provides everybody an opportunity to make their opinion public. And that's not all bad. Not everything with social media is bad, but there's a lot of stuff on there that's just, frankly, ridiculous. about all topics, not just about racing or my job, or I'm just talking about in general. So I guess a long way of going around to say that I really pay very little attention to it. Some I see, some I don't, but in general, it doesn't impact me one way or another, whether how I go about my job.
Yeah, absolutely, and it shouldn't, sir. Just go on about your business. You have you definitely have a ton of fans who love your commentating, including myself. Everyone loves the Truck Series, and it's cool to see you become basically the official voice of the Gander Outdoors Truck Series too. I was like, Rick Allen for many years, and
Yep.
ever since then, ever since he stopped, it's you now. So we appreciate your work.
And I appreciate that. I really do. But let me also say that I don't. Everybody doesn't have to like me, or everybody doesn't have to like Rick, or even you when you become when you start broadcasting as a profession. That's just like the same thing. Some people don't like seafood. My dad doesn't like pizza. Can you imagine? Not everybody likes the same thing. And so it's okay if I'm not your cup of tea, but that doesn't make me wrong and you right, or me right and you wrong. We just have different opinions, and we go about things differently, and that's okay. That's fine. And so I think the Truck Series is fantastic. I think the racing has been as good, if not better, than any series going this year. And there's things about it that we wish could be different. We wish they didn't have a bunch of engine problems at Vegas. That changed, that altered the playoffs, and that's unfortunate, and it's a shame, because two good guys got knocked out of the playoffs that might not have that had nothing to do with with their team. It was because of something went wrong on a part that they are mandated to run.
Yeah.
And but you know what? That's sports, man. I mean, it stinks, but that's just the way it is. And it's unfortunate. William Byron should have won the Xfinity Series championship the year he was in the Truck Series championship the year he was in the Truck Series, and he had a motor blow up, and it cost him the championship. Yeah. So it happens, and that's sports, and that's what we love about it, hate about it. But I think ultimately it's what keeps us coming back, and I think the Truck Series has had a good year, and I think it's going to be really exciting in these final four races.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's an understatement. Everyone loves the Truck Series, including the podcast, man. So, Jerry.
Well, let's see, Darian. Do you see what questions we got in the chat right now?
Oh yeah, I was just about to move on to that. So I'm just gonna pick 3 fan questions. So Kevin's question is, what is Vince's favorite race to broadcast during this season?
Boy, that's a good question. Well, it would be different depending on what role I'm in. If I'm on pit road, or if I'm in the booth. My favorite race to broadcast if I'm in the booth for the Truck Series would be the championship race, just because of everything that is on the line in that race. And when I earlier I mentioned that as announcers we desire to do the big events, and in the truck season the championship race at Homestead is the biggest race. So that's the one. Regardless of the outcome of it, that's the one that I would pick in that regard. Man, on pit road, I don't know. There's so much to like about so many different places and so many different tracks. So it would really be hard for me to pick one out. People ask me all the time, "What's your favorite track?" And I say the one that's dry. Because you don't ever want to be at the track when it's raining, because being at the racetrack in the rain is miserable for everybody. But I enjoy going to Phoenix. I enjoy Auto Club. I enjoy Bristol. Daytona. Of course, the Daytona 500 we get to do is special. So I love the road courses. I love the road NASCAR and the road course races, so I've enjoyed those. So, it'd really be hard for me to pick one in particular because there's probably something about every single one of them that I like. Even Dover, which didn't get much love from this past weekend, but I think if you go to them all, you will ultimately find something about each trip or each track or the racing at each place that you really like and you value and you remember as a positive as you go there from year to year.
So the second question is from the man with the plan. What were your thoughts when you heard that NASCAR was coming to the Brickyard back in the 90s?
Well, it was interesting. We were because at the time here in Indianapolis, I was working in the local market, and we almost couldn't believe it. It was, of course there had been rumors and rumblings and so forth for a long time, so it wasn't quite the shock when they finally announced that they were coming. But I remember being at the test that they had here, and it was just an incredible energy from not just the drivers that were going to be, the Earnhardts and the Wallaces that were going to, et cetera, that were going to have an opportunity to drive their stock car on the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, they were genuinely excited about it, as were the fans that were in the stands. I mean, it was an electric atmosphere that day for a test, but it was crazy, and it was on one hand, to those of us that have been around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for a long time, it was amazing that something else was going to come there and race. But when they rolled out for that test that first day, I think everybody was all in and said, "Man, this is going to be phenomenal," and it was. And I still think it's a great event. I know that it takes a lot of heat because of the attendance, and supposedly people don't think it's great racing. But I challenge you to go back and watch some of those races that you all thought were great at the Brickyard, and you'll see that they really aren't a whole lot different today than they were then. It's always been a hard place to pass. It's always been a flat track. It's always been 2.5 miles. All four corners are different, even though they look alike. It's the most challenging race for the engineers and the crew chiefs, and if all you can take joy in is side-by-side racing and constant passing, then the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is not for you in regards to NASCAR. But there are a lot of different elements of the Brickyard 400 that I find entertaining, even though it may not be wheel-to-wheel, door-to-door, banging bumpers, the whole time like it is at some other tracks, I guess. But everybody harkens back to the day, and just like we always hear about the good old days, and when you go back to those good old days, it's interesting to see some of those races where there were maybe 4, 5, 6 cars on the lead lap. Can you imagine if that happened today? I mean,
and also Jeff Gordon won like 15 races a year too. I don't think
people would be losing their mind.
Yeah.
But everything changes and everybody likes something different. So, but I loved it when NASCAR came to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. To circle back to your question, and there was a lot of energy and excitement, especially that first day when they came for the test, and of course that first year when Gordon won.
All right. Final question from Ultimate 23 Dragon. Are you more comfortable as a booth announcer or on the pit road?
It's a hard question because they're both so different, and I like being in the booth because I have a lot more say so and a lot more control over what's going out over the air, or at least I can input my opinion a lot more directly. I have a button that I can talk to the producer of the show directly. I can steer a conversation with Michael or Phil in a particular direction, just that's under my control. I can communicate with the director directly if I need to. So from that perspective, you feel a little bit like you've got a little bit more of your thumbprint on the broadcast. But as a pit reporter, you are in the action, and things that are going on in the pits and involving teams that the guys in the booth don't know, because you're listening to the radios nonstop. You're communicating with the crew members nonstop. You're, having a conversation with the crew chief off air. So, a lot down there that you wish you could get on the air, but the truth of the matter is there's 3 other pit reporters and there's booth announcers, and you can't get everybody on the air every time they want to get on. So you feel like you got more input in the broadcast when you're in the booth, but being down on pit road is something that I really, really do enjoy, because I love being in the action, and you can't get any more in the action than standing in the pits during a green flag pit stop, or in the late stages of a race when a crew chief's got to make a decision in regards to, coming to pit lane to put on 2 or 4 or fuel only or whatever the case may be. I mean, the tension and the excitement and the adrenaline down there is unmistakable, and that's something that you don't get in the booth. So I tell people all the time, I make the comparison. I love a good fillet, and I love a good piece of seafood. They couldn't be more different, but I love them both, and that's kind of the way the booth and the pit lane responsibilities are. They couldn't be more different in their responsibilities, but I love them both, and it really is. It gives you a different kind of kick to do each one of them, but it's pretty cool both ways.
Well, I think that'll just about wrap it up. Thank you for coming on with us tonight. Is there any place like social media or anywhere that people can find you, like Twitter maybe, or?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's on Twitter. I'm at Vince Welch, and I'm on Instagram also. Those are the only two. Avenues of social media that I participate in, and I'm always up for conversation on Twitter, and like I said, you don't have to agree with me. That doesn't bother me, but as long as you keep it civil, we're cool. If you don't keep it civil, then you don't get me. I move on.
Yeah.
So, but and I've blocked. I bet I haven't. I don't know if I've blocked 5 people in my life, but debate me all you want. That's fine, well and good, but just keep it civil. That's just show me the respect. I'll show you the respect, and we can agree to disagree, or we can move on. But I'm always happy to banter in that regard. Or if you see me at the racetrack, please come up and say hello. I love to meet the fans and the people that love our sport and are passionate about the sport, just like I am. We got a lot in common, so I always enjoy saying hello to you and meeting you. So don't hesitate to do that.
Oh, that's good to hear, man. So really quick, one last question before you go. I know the chat's been requesting this. Can you just say "keep on trucking" for them, please? They love that. They love that catchphrase.
Well, some people don't understand that when that's a phrase we use when we go to commercial and we do the side by side, where you still see the action, and you also get the commercial. So I'll never say "keep on trucking" when we're going to a full screen commercial. It's always when you're going to see the action while we're in the commercial break. So that's always the cue for people, that if they want to know, hey, are we still going to be able to see what's going on during the commercial break? If I say, hey, we're going to keep on trucking, then you're going to keep on seeing it. And so we kind of stumbled upon that by accident. I said it, I think, one time, and my producer hit me in the ear and said, I like it. And so that's just kind of what what we've ended up falling into in regards to letting everybody know that you're going to still see all the action, and we have some fun with it too. So we gotta have a little bit of fun. We can't take ourselves too seriously. We got to have a little bit of fun. I guarantee you that we do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on, sir, and can't wait to see you commentate this weekend at Talladega. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And, I think that the way media has gone today in this day and age, it's great that you guys have an opportunity and you have a platform like you do and a following like you do. And it provides race fans an opportunity to just get some more, get some more information and get some more joy out of their love and their passion for motorsports. And I'm happy for people like yourselves that have a platform to do that. And I'm happy for the folks out there that are listening that maybe get something from it that they wouldn't ordinarily get. So I thank you for doing what you do and having me on, and you guys keep doing what you do, and all the best to you.
Yes, sir. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, take care. Hey, and keep on trucking.
Yeah.
I like this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Oh my God, that was so cool, wasn't that, chat? Man, get hype, man. That was so awesome. That was so awesome, man. Vince Welch, one and only voice of the Truck Series. Man, I gotta say, I mean, he's a lot cooler, man. Like when you actually talk to him, it's awesome.
I look on here, and the moment you said, "Oh yeah," is right when you froze up. It's like, and then the screen went up for a second. But that was awesome. Definitely an awesome guy. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. I'm gonna follow him right now because that was awesome. And it's so cool when we get so many of these guys on and girls on that race, that work in broadcasting, that are in the sport, and are just such down to earth and cool people, just normal people, And here's another normal person, just like us, Danny B. That's one thing about Zoom that's really funny is that when a person's leaving or coming in, you have like 30 seconds of silence, and there's just that awkward person in the corner, and then you get the person like right now.
There he is, and then you get right here. There he is. Hi, Denny. What's up, Denny?
Hello. Keep on trucking.
Yes, keep on trucking, man. That was, I mean, I know I say this all the time, but honestly, that was like one of the best interviews that we've ever done, like top 3 easily. I mean, that was pretty cool.
And the chat was definitely, they were popping pretty good during it. And I saw we've been fluctuating, but make sure, guys, lick that like button. Before we get into anything else, lick that like button. And if you haven't already, sub to me. Where are we at? Let's see where we're at right now. A refresh.
30.
We're 36 away. 36 away from 10K. Let's get it done. Let's get her done.
Yeah, subscribe to him,
I'm
too. And
pumped.
also, I also have to point this out. I had to ask about the memes. I know the chat was going off about it. I had to ask him, and he was straight up with us about it, about how he deals with social media. So it's good to hear from Vince Welch, man.
Well, I'd say that we should probably get into what's been going on. Let's get into it. So I want to actually pose this to the chat because I was really seesawing on which one we should talk about first. So, chat, I'm leaving this one on you guys. You want to talk about Dover first? You want to talk about the next gen car? I think I know the answer from the chat, but I just wanted to know. So, rip them off. What do you guys want? Put a 1 in the chat for Dover, 2 for the next gen car.
Yeah, I think everyone's gonna say probably next gen, probably most likely. See,
wow,
we're seeing a lot of Dover.
Gosh.
Dover.
Neither.
Dover. Hey, what the hell? What? Oh my god. Yeah, man, we see a lot of Dovers.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're talking about Dover. Darian and Danny, you guys can fight amongst yourselves to the death. Which one of you wants to talk first about Dover?
I'll do it. So Dover happened. Yay, I guess. I mean, this year's Dover races have not been particularly good with this year's package. So I had very little expectations heading into it. I figured, if you're starting up front, you're probably gonna finish up front, barring some sort of crash or engine failure. But then, just something about the race in the very beginning, it's just we had all this mess happen. Joey Logano doesn't even start, so there's officially a 2019 Dover Fall curse. 2018, we had Johnson not start. In 2019, Logano. But Logano's was even worse because Johnson got back on the track by lap 9. Logano didn't get back until like lap 24, so he was 24 laps down, and apparently during the race he was racing everyone hard, and Denny Hamlin said he's an idiot, but then, well, he's not an idiot. Like, he's not an idiot. He was just being weird. So Logano, who has been super consistent all season, is now tied on the cut line. And then Chase Elliott, last week's winner, or the winner from a couple weeks ago at the Roval. Now he had engine problems. So now he's below the cut line. And now we're going to a track that he has won at. And personally, I think he has good chances to sweep Talladega's this year. I mean, that Hendrick stable, they're pretty good on these plate track. No, sorry, not plate tracks anymore. Super speedways now. We call them super speedways now. We've been calling it, but no more plates. But yeah, so like all this playoff drama. Then also Ryan Blaney's been disappointing too. He's like 20 something below the cut line. I mean, he's been very disappointing. Only one race in, and some surprises too. Byron did pretty well. Johnson got a top 10, so that's good to see. And only 8 cars finished on the lead lap. That's crazy. That's pretty crazy. And Kyle Larson, man, finally, man, it's great to see him finally get that win. Remember in April, I had tweeted out after Kyle Larson's flip at Talladega, bad season's Kyle Larson 2019. And then even after his crash at Richmond, bad season's Kyle Larson 2019. Well, who's the fool now? This guy right here.
Watch, I've been saying all year that this is like, oh, he's doing so horrible. Like, he might leave NASCAR, and he comes out and he wins a championship. I can't wait.
We were talking about that. All the rumors, like, oh, he's going to leave and go to World of Outlaws. So now he's going to win the championship.
Real quick, thank you, Grillmore, for the $1.99 super chat. I didn't leave a comment, but thank you so much. Means a lot, man.
Yeah, so like back to Kyle Larson, man. It's great to see him back in victory lane. Great for the sport, and it was cool seeing his wife chug a beer afterwards too, or that kind of beer. So I can't do that. I'm not much of a drinker, but she obviously can. So that's pretty dope. But then Denny Hamlin.
Maybe we should give Danny a chance to talk at some point.
All right, I'm almost done. I'm almost finished. I'm almost finished.
Just like
I'm sorry. There's a lot to go over. Here. So in conclusion, Denny Hamlin, my championship pick, had a pretty good day. He had some engine problems there. I thought he was going to win the race there. I thought he was going to be dominant, but unfortunately had some problems there towards the end. But you know what? I'd give this race. I don't know. I'll be generous. 5.5 out of 10, maybe. Like, I don't know. Nothing really happened besides that stuff. But Danny, I'm sorry. I talked too much. Go ahead.
Well, there's nothing more to discuss.
I said everything. I just said everything. I was like, I'm just gonna get it out. This is why I love talking first.
I mean, I'll say I'm happy as a Bowman fan, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Bowman finished third. That's right. We have to hear about that. Oh God.
Yeah. A second in the spring, a third in the fall. That's a good track for him.
At this rate, he's going to get a 4th and a 5th next year. He's predictable, just like Johnson's finishes. The last 4 races, he went 11th, then 10th, then 9th, then 8th, 7th this week.
Well, last week he was second at Roval, then he's third. So let's just keep it in that top 3, and let's go for 1 at Talladega, and then everything.
Well, if that's all you got, I guess I'll go. I'll be honest, I wasn't crazy about this race. Partially because the first 100 laps I was watching out in a state park filming for an assignment, but that's beside the point. The arrows seem to be a bigger problem this time around than the spring race. It seemed like it was even tougher to pass. The only way that cars could actually get side by side, it seemed like, is if the momentum was broken with a lap car there. I was not crazy about that. And it just, I mean, Dover, don't get me wrong. I think I've thought since I've started watching it, I've thought that Dover is one of the more overrated tracks in the schedule. I didn't get the hype behind it. I got the hype looking back in time, but from like the time I started watching on, I hadn't really understood the hype for Dover. But this was definitely on the lower end of races there. I mean, I saw even Jeff Gluck's poll, and we'll get to the poll in a minute. Yeah, Jeff Gluck's poll, I think it ranked like 143 out of 156 races he's polled of if it was a good race. I mean, it was, and people claim that one's overly positive, overly biased, and it's like, man, they weren't very positive about this one. But personally, I don't think it was like one of the worst races ever. Like, people are like, it's a 2 or it's a 2 out of 10, it's a 1 out of 10. It's like, this was not fall Richmond 2014 bad. This was
Really
not
bad.
that bad. This was not as bad as the Pocono race earlier this year, or in my opinion, even the Michigan race earlier this year. But man, I'll give it between a 3.5 or 4 out of 10. It was definitely below average.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like Dover's always been those tracks. It's like nothing really exciting. Like there's never like any sort of exciting moments that really come to mind other than Junior's win after 9/11, and then
Well, the 2004 races were pretty good there,
yeah,
and so was
2004 races were pretty
2005.
good. Yeah, so I mean, okay, there are some moments, but like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those tracks that I don't ever have high expectations for. It's like
It springs up though. It springs up
weird.
a few times, and it's like I can think of I can go through the years and think each gen of car. I can think of good races at Dover. I can 2013. I think both the races in 2013 were pretty good at Dover. Even though there weren't many cars in the lead lap, I thought the fall 2012 race wasn't actually a bad race. I mean, you go back even further. I like the 2007 fall race. I think that was pretty good before it became an absolute demolition derby. The 2005, 2004 races were good. I mean, they have good races, and like knowing the trend of it, how the Dover races recently haven't been too hot. We're due for a good one coming soon, but this one was not it.
And also, Larson versus Kenseth too in 2016. That was pretty
Yeah,
exciting.
that was good.
I mean, this is more of a track where I don't know. There may the racing may not be exciting, but like the drivers have a handful with this track all the time. Like they wake up in the morning like hella sore, from racing action there. So. I mean, I have a ton of respect for the drivers who can, tame the monster mile.
Tame the beast.
Tame the beast, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's been, historically good at this track. Got a top 10, but it's not, I mean, that's good, but it's like, up to where he usually is. He's always like leading laps here, so I'm still not used to that. Damn, Jimmy Johnson not leading laps at Dover. It's so odd, man. And hopefully he can get back to that form.
I think it was Radman that said it, that it's like people shouldn't be celebrating Jimmy Johnson doing like good at Dover because it's Dover. He should be up. He should be in the top 5.
This is bread and butter.
Yeah,
that's his bread and butter track. Like, I mean, he won it ever since his rookie season. That's been his bread and butter track. Like
that
I mean,
and
Martinsville.
Martinsville
Top 10 is a good finish. Yeah, a top 10 is a good finish for someone like Alex Bowman or Bubba. But for Johnson, that's like
like if he went out and got a top 10 or top 5 at like Watkins Glen, a track he historically has not been the greatest at over time, I'd be much more positive about him. But it's like, man, putting 7th as like, oh, this is good for Jimmy Johnson here. I mean, that I look back at certain drivers, I'd be like, well, Jeff Gordon finished 7th at Martinsville in his last start or 6th, I think. He was in the top 10 in his last Martinsville start, and it's like, yeah, but it's Jeff Gordon at Martinsville, or it's like Dale Jr. finished 7th in his last Talladega race.
It's like, but
it's
Jr.
Dale Jr. at Talladega. The expectation is a win. In that regard, I mean,
Harvick at ISM.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that Johnson's doing better, but at the same time, it's one of those deals where it's like, this he's not back. A 7th place at Dover is not back.
He will be, though.
He's on the right track.
Mark my words.
Yeah, I think he's on the right track. I think he could have a career resurgence. I don't think he's ever going to be to the point that he was with the 5 straight championships, but I think he could definitely have a bit of a resurgence. I mean,
you never know, though. You don't think he has one more championship left in him? So
maybe under this system, I don't know. Honestly.
I mean, nothing would surprise me. If Johnson runs 16th all year, qualifies for a final playoff spot, and then he catches fire during the playoffs and wins the championship, I wouldn't be surprised anymore because you know what? It's the playoffs.
If you run 16th all year and then you win Talladega and then he goes on and wins Martinsville in 1 year, you could be a championship contender. Like that's just how the system is.
It's crazy, but I've accepted it.
I think he can do better than that, though. I think he can do better than being a 16th place driver. I think, I'm hoping he will. But I want to really quick before we get too off topic about the Dover race itself. I want to test the share option. Jeez.
It was good when we tested it out.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's just gonna show up on my screen. So we'll find out, guys.
We'll see.
We're gonna share screen with
the poll.
Yeah, the poll. Alrighty, here we are.
Hey,
Is it
it's
showing
good.
up?
Looks good.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I'm a little behind on the stream, so let
It's
me.
a little delayed for me
Yeah,
right now.
it's delayed on
Hold
the stream,
Hold on.
but one second. Let me refresh this baby.
Oh no, we're actually frozen. Actually.
Son of a gun! Son
We're
of a
actually-
gun!
We're
Can they
actually
hear us?
frozen. Wait, hold on. Can y'all hear us? No. They can hear us still. Actually, yeah.
It's not showing up on the.
Yeah, it's not showing up.
Wah wah.
Wow.
All right, well, I'll stop sharing then, since that's probably not going to work. Now watch, we'll start moving again on there.
Yeah, we're gonna start moving in a few, probably. Dang,
yeah.
we're so close.
Well, that sucks. We'll work on that throughout the week, guys.
Oh, there we are. We're starting to
Yeah,
move now.
see, yeah. Now we're moving now because I got off of that. I'll just look on the community tab on my phone. We'll read it off. We work with what we have.
Yes, it's all good.
But this week, let me get my. I keep track on a piece of paper because I'm somewhat old school.
loves it.
I'm not really old. I'm a stat man all the way.
Loves it.
But this week at Dover, we tied the record for most votes, and this is what impresses me, and this is what surprises the hell out of me. It's Dover. Like, if you remember last week, we made Eric laugh because I was like, yeah, well, vote at Talladega. And he's like, yeah, because no one's going to vote for Dover. No, we had
the record.
3.6. We tied the record. We'll just say we broke it just because it sounds better. So a new track record.
Record. Let's go.
And it was up there with the Watkins Glen race of all races. That surprises me. Anyway, 9% of you thought this was a great race.
Damn, that's like the lowest this year, isn't it?
No, not even close.
Oh, okay.
Pocono had 4.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But it's the fourth lowest. The only ones that are fifth lowest. The only ones lower are the Spring Dover race, Pocono, Sonoma, Michigan, and Richmond. So it's the sixth lowest. So actually we've had some duds this year. Anyway, those of you who voted good were 21%, which about matches the Roval last week. Which gives us a net positivity of 30%. 44% of you are milquetoast fence sitters like myself. You guys thought it was average, and I'm looking at the poll, and the last time we've had people think a race was this average was Sonoma, which is surprising to me, which had very similar numbers to this race. 16% of you were actually where I actually was, thinking that this was a below average race, so 16% there. And 10% of you thought this was bad. To put this in perspective, this is only the second time this year we've had double digits in the bad category. The first one, of course, being the first Pocono race, having 22%. I think it's going to be a while before we beat that one. Yeah. Knock on wood. So 26% net negative. So we still had more net positive than net negative, but it is very even. And I'm looking 26%. I'm trying to do some quick math. Yeah, the last time we had higher than 26% of a net negative for a race, and the only time this year we've had more was for the Pocono race, which was 42%.
What a shock.
I don't think we're beating that one anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
But what did you guys think? So let's see. I'm just going through here, and we'll talk about this one in a minute. Patriotic Pioneer, but he says if anyone sees us in the podcast, spam return to North Wilkesboro in the chat. So yeah, spam return to North Wilkesboro in the chat for Slab's video.
We'll talk about that a little bit tonight too.
We will. I'm excited about that one because let's make a difference in the sport here, man.
Starting the movement. Let's start the movement here.
Going through here, Vixenix Bug YouTube says everyone is saying that Dover should lose a race after one bad season of races. It's just the aero package doesn't suit this track. And I believe that they're going to up the horsepower for the short tracks next year. I hope they do. I've since before this year, I've actually been on that bandwagon of maybe Dover should downsize one. As long as they get a unique track like a short track. If it goes to a mile and a half, that's the ultimate like FU kind of fans.
A third race at Vegas. That would be like what? No, a third race at Bristol.
I'd be down with that. But
I don't know. It's hard enough that spring race, guys. Come on.
Yeah, good point. Racing wise, yes. Attendance wise, hell nah. Anyway, Looking through IDK player. IDK is a national treasure, man. He put smile in all these weird things, except it screws up when it's on the mobile version, which is even funnier. So yeah. Motorsport fan 17. He says, Larson finally won. I'm calling it right now. Larson makes a Final Four and wins 2019 Cup championship.
You know what's funny is like everyone was rejoicing on Twitter. Oh, Larson broke his 75 race winless streak. I'm like Junior didn't win a freaking race for 4 years. Like, get on our level.
Truex didn't win one for like 6. I mean,
yeah. I mean, like, and Sterling Marlin, he had like the longest
oh my
winless
gosh,
streak as well.
oh my gosh, Streamville Speedway in here has a comment that's not about Haley Deegan.
Holy crap!
I mean, he has 4 other comments about Haley Deegan in here, but there's one that isn't. I kid because I care. He put boring race, but finally Larson wins after 2 years of choking. Sucks for Elliott, Logano, and Blaney though. Yeah, I think that's a lot of what people are thinking. I'm just gonna randomly scroll.
By the way, you got a super chat too.
Oh, I got a super chat.
Yes, and it's a funny one too.
Oh, and I just closed out, so I might as well just read the super chat. Flying Gator, 199. He says, remove one Dover triple header at Pocono.
Watch that happen. That is so great.
Triple header at Pocono.
We would have to go to that.
And they're all 500 miles too.
We have to go just for the memes, just to see how many people we can bring.
I'm seriously like wanting to go to the Pocono doubleheader next year. Honest to God. I accidentally closed out of the comments, so I'm going to be having to scroll all the way back down because I'm a doofus.
Didn't someone leave the a script in there too?
Oh yeah, where's the script at? Someone left the script of, spoiler alert, Iron Man's death and funeral. Because
the whole script.
I am not reading that whole thing, but I will read part of it. Let me find it. But
oh my gosh, I love your polls, man. Just off the comments alone.
Oh, I can see this. This one was from right at the start because this one shocked me because at first it was like 45% great and like 22% good, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, am I in the Matrix? Am I in the Twilight Zone? What is going on? This dude Rando Chicken says 22% good. What the f? It was. Can't say it because I'm on a cussing abstinence. Let's see. Did you? I just saw this one. Awful. Super boring.
Super boring. The typical ones there.
I love the one-liner ones because I just feel like it's just one of those boring. Like I'm obligated to say it. Ooh, you'll like this one, Danny. Illinois Fighting Illini fan. I wonder where he's from. Watch, he's from Wisconsin. Saying, "Go Bowman!"
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Oh, you got another super chat. But all right, you're